The night the steel wolves roared into that hospital parking lot, the world seemed to stop. The hum of their engines once to just noise. It was a storm, a wall of thunder that carried purpose and fury. 97 motorcycles lined up under the flickering lights, chrome glinting like 1,000 sparks of vengeance. Inside, a frightened girl named Lily pressed her trembling hands against the window, her pale face streaked with tears. The nurses whispered. The security guards froze. No one knew why a motorcycle club was descending upon a quiet suburban hospital in the middle of the night, but by dawn everyone would. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of strangers standing up for what? As right, take a moment now to like, comment, share, and subscribe, because what you're about to hear might just restore your faith in humanity. Lily was 12 when her mother remarried. Her stepfather, Craig, wore a smile in public that could charm anyone, but at home, that same smile twisted into something darker. He had a temper, not the kind that erupted like thunder, but the kind that simmered quietly, waiting for moments when no one else was around. Lily, as mother worked night shifts at a diner, leaving Lily alone with him for hours. It started with shouting, then came the slammed doors, then one night, bruises she could hide anymore. She tried to tell her mother, but fear silenced her. Craig was clever. He'd always find a way to twist the story, make it seem like Lily was lying, like she was acting out. He even convinced her mother to take away her phone. The walls closed in, and Lily started to believe that no one would ever believe her again. That changed one evening when she ran away. She slipped out barefoot, clutching a torn backpack and her stuffed rabbit, her heart pounding as she ran into the night. She didn't know where to go, only that she had to get away. She ended up at a gas station on the edge of town, shaking from cold and fear. There, she met a man named Bear, the vice president of the Steel Wolves Motorcycle Club. Bear was a mountain of a man, tattoos crawling up his arms, his grey beard tangled and wind-burned. To most, he looked terrifying, but when he saw Lily huddled by the gas pump, his eyes softened. He bought her a hot chocolate, sat beside her, and didn't ask questions, not at first. She eventually told him everything, voice trembling, eyes red. When she finished, Bear didn't say much. He just stood up, called someone on his phone, and said 3 words that would change everything. We ride tonight. Back at the Steel Wolves clubhouse, the engine started before dawn. The members gathered. 97 men and women who had all once lived lives that went off the rails. Former soldiers, addicts, ex-convicts, outcasts. The club wasn't about crime, it was about redemption. They'd turned their chaos into brotherhood, their mistakes into purpose. They rode for charity, for veterans, for lost souls, and that night they would ride for Lily. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Lily lay in a bed under thin sheets, recovering from injuries Craig had caused before the police intervened. Her stepfather had been arrested briefly but released pending investigation, and word spread fast that he was coming back to take her home. The hospital staff did what they could, but legally their hands were tied. Lily's mother was too afraid to stand up to him. The girl's only protector seemed to be time itself, and even that was running out. Then came the sound. At first it was distant, a low rumble like thunder over the horizon. Nurses glanced up. The security guard stepped outside, confused. Then the sound grew louder, closer, heavier, until the glass doors of the hospital trembled in their frames. Headlights appeared like stars across the parking lot, one by one, until there were nearly 100. The Steel Wolves had arrived. Bear led the front, his leather vest bearing the club's winged wolf emblem. Behind him, the wolves formed a semicircle around the entrance. When they dismounted, the air changed. They weren't here to make trouble. They were here to make a stand. They spoke calmly to the guards, explaining who they were, that they were there to protect a little girl whose stepfather was on his way. The guards didn't know what to do, but the sheer presence of the wolves made one thing clear: no one was getting through those doors without going through them first. Inside, Lily heard the engines fade to silence. A nurse whispered that the bikers were here for her. She sat up slowly, not believing it at first. Her eyes caught the patch on Bear's jacket through the window. Steel Wolves MC. For the first time in a long time, she felt safe. Craig arrived 15 minutes later. He pulled into the lot, his car headlights flashing over rows of black leather giants. He tried to step out, tried to shout that Lily was his daughter, that he had every right to see her. But before he could take a second step, Bear and several others calmly approached. Bear didn't threaten him. He just looked him in the eyes. That silent, unflinching look of a man who'd seen enough monsters in his life to know one when he met it. He told him to turn around and leave. Craig tried to push back, his voice breaking into insults and rage, but it didn't matter. The police arrived soon after, called by someone at the hospital. They listened to both sides, and something remarkable happened. The officers recognized the wolves. They knew the club's reputation, how they'd cleaned up neighborhoods, raised funds for orphanages, even escorted abuse survivors to court. This wasn't a gang, this was a family with a cause. When the officers questioned Craig, the truth started to unravel. Witnesses came forward, nurses showed reports of Lily's injuries, and suddenly, Craig wasn't walking free anymore. He was handcuffed, shouting as they led him away. The wolves stood silently as the patrol car disappeared into the night. The hospital parking lot, once filled with fear, was now calm, only the faint sound of engines idling, steady like heartbeats of protection. But the story didn't end there. Over the next few weeks, the steel wolves visited Lily often. They brought her stuffed animals, ice cream, books, and laughter. The hospital staff began calling them her guardian angels in leather. Bear made sure Lily's mother got counseling and support. He arranged for the club's lawyer, a former prosecutor who joined after losing his own daughter, to help with custody paperwork. Slowly, Lily's mother found her voice again. She filed for divorce, pressed charges, and began rebuilding her life. The day Lily was discharged, nearly 50 of the wolves showed up to escort her home. It wasn't a parade. It was a statement. As they rode, people on the sidewalks stopped and stared. Some clapped, some cried. For Lily, sitting in the back seat of Bear's truck, watching the endless line of motorcycles in the mirror, it was like being surrounded by angels, loud, rough-edged angels who'd chosen her as their cause. Months passed. Lily started school again under a new name, in a new town. The nightmares faded little by little. She began painting, something Bear encouraged after seeing her doodles on hospital napkins. One day, she painted a wolf with wings, fierce yet gentle, guarding a small girl under its shadow. When Bear saw it, he framed it and hung it on the clubhouse wall. The steel wolves became part of her family. On holidays, they'd visit with gifts. On her birthdays, the roar of engines outside the house was her favorite sound. The same roar that once meant fear now meant love. Years later, when Lily graduated high school, the wolves filled the back row of the auditorium. Their leather jackets gleamed under the lights, patches catching every eye in the room. When Lily stepped onto the stage, she didn't look for her stepfather. He was long gone, serving time. She looked for Bear. He stood with tears in his eyes, clapping harder than anyone. After the ceremony, she hugged him and whispered, "You saved my life." He just smiled and said, "No, kid, you saved ours." Because for the steel wolves, Lily had become a symbol of everything they fought for. The proof that people could change, that pain could be turned into purpose. Before her, they rode for causes. After her, they rode with conviction. The photo of that night, the one of Bear standing outside the hospital, with Lily's tear-streaked face looking up at him, went viral. It wasn't planned, but someone had captured it. The internet exploded with messages of support, donations to the club's foundation, and stories from others who'd been saved by unexpected kindness. The Wolves of Mercy, people called them. But for Bear, it was never about fame. It was about a promise he made that night at the gas station, that no child would ever feel alone if he could help it. Even after Bear passed away years later, the Steel Wolves kept that promise. They started a program in his name, rescuing kids from abusive homes, working with shelters and police to give them safety. And every time a new case came in, every time another scared child looked up with tear-filled eyes, someone would whisper, "Ride for Lily," because that's what started it all. One girl, one night, and 97 hearts that refused to look away. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that goodness can come from the most unexpected places, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps us keep telling stories that matter. Stories about courage, compassion, and redemption. Before you go, take a moment in the comments to write one thing: ride for Lily, because somewhere out there, another child might need a wolf to ride for them too.